creepy that I've been stalking you for forever.
No, it's not.
But I wanted to share this with you because I am so inspired by you, Dan. I've been really excited. I mean, look, I couldn't believe I'm talking to you, and you're my book that I used for my teacher training.
Oh, fun.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I used to do teacher training for Connected Warriors. I was one of their field coordinators. And Judy Weaver has been one of my teachers for the longest time. She was actually one of the reasons why I started doing yoga. And so she started this program, and then I'm a military spouse and started utilizing these tools and principles to apply it to my family life. And then all of a sudden we got these books in, and I was like, hey, I know that guy. He's in the Yoga Journal magazine that I tore out his picture because he just inspired my husband to do Shavasana all day long in yoga class. And so, hey, it worked. It worked. He did. And it worked great because then he found camaraderie, and it was just so great. So I was like, that's the dude. So then I just wanted to share how in that moment, I recognized how inspiring it is to have like a guy that eats meat, that doesn't do this yogi vegetarian diet, that thinks of it. Basically, I really love the quote that I'm going to read and share that you shared on BuzzFeed, because it wraps up everything. But from that is what I'm going to have us have this conversation about, because you've got some stuff in there that I'm like,
I'm like trying to remember what quote was that? I'm sure
you probably have no idea, because I mean, come on, Dan, you go all over the world inspiring people. And so I just want to record a little bit of like who you are, who I am, so people know who, Got it. And then from there, I'm going to jump right into this quote that BuzzFeed had, that you shared on BuzzFeed. I believe her name was Cassie, but I have it pulled up here for us. And then I'm going to dive right into some of those questions, because I love how you're very open about TBI. You're very open about your ability from the disability, and you're very open about the empowerment and how to utilize that. And I want you to kind of dig in and dive in more into kind of leading you into your warrior spirit retreat, and leading you into the Yoda Foundation, and leading you into the Wounded Warriors Project, the Speak project that I want you to talk about as well. All right, cool. And then of course, towards the end, like, how do we get in touch with Dan and all the fun stuff, right? Like, well, here's his email, here's his
Got it.
Right on.
Smoke signals are my preferred method of these days.
Yes. Oh my goodness. This is our selfie moment if we need to take a picture.
We should. Hold on. Wait.
Okay. Selfie moment. OMG, wait, hold on. We should turn your head in. So it's like, yeah. Wait, turn this way. Wait, you're right, left. We're yoga teachers. We can't even tell our favorite rights. We're so silly. Stop it. All right, let's do this.
All right. I'm ready.
So, he's ready. Good. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Christina with Bhakti Yoga Foundation, a nonprofit based out of Louisiana, New Orleans. We offer online wellness and yoga continuing education courses for adaptive yoga teacher training. We offer these programs as tax-deducted contributions so that we can provide scholarships for marginalized and disadvantaged communities all over the world. Today, we want to welcome and very big, huge respect and honor to Dan Nevins, who I have been following since 2015. And since he's basically started his career as not only a yoga teacher and inspiring and inspirational leader and motivational speaker, but he's also been a part of the Wounded Warriors Project and the director of now the Speak program, which we're going to get to in a little bit. He's also a father, and he has TBI, which we are going to talk about and discuss how this has been an empowerment for him to offer what he does now. He is the founder of the Yoda Foundation, as well as the Warrior Spirit Retreat, which we're going to get into and dive into, as well as he's been teaching yoga to veterans and all kinds of amazing bodies all over the world, from Kenya, Nairobi with the Africa Yoga Project to the White House in Washington, D.C. So I want to open this platform up to Dan. Welcome, Dan, with this big loving embrace. And if I missed anything, Dan, please let me know and share that with us.
Oh, I'm also a grandfather.
And a grandfather.
And a grandfather, yep. Can't. It's funny, like and thank you, Christina. So glad to be here, by the way. But I have 3 daughters, so 26, 10, and 3. And my granddaughter is also 3, 10 days younger than my daughter. So somehow I became that guy. I don't know, but here we are. And my home is full of love, and it's all girls.
You can't go wrong. Hey, I come from a family of 6 girls, 1 boy. So it's all love, that nurturing. So Dan, I want to talk to you about this incredible quote that I read when I was kind of perusing through and preparing for today. And you really wrapped up everything that we're going to dive into, as not only is today International Peace Day, so peace, y'all, but it's also Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. It is also the big transition of the fall equinox. And it's a season of transformation. You can almost smell it and taste it in the air. And something that you were very open about saying was, and this is from BuzzFeed, and the young lady's name is Caroline Key. And this was back on April 1st of 2016. So I love how relevant this still is today. Nevin says he had never considered yoga before because of what he calls the man bun and spandex stereotype. Love that. But he agreed when his friend offered to teach him because he had tried meditation, which seemed to help. My prosthetics made it very difficult and painful. And I got so frustrated that I just threw them off, which I never did in front of people for an entire decade, Nevin says. With a lot of patience and help from his friend, he says he could adapt almost every pose. I remember sinking into warrior pose, and it was like the earth shattered beneath me and my body lit up with energy. I was tearing up and I didn't even understand what was happening. But my entire outlook of life changed, Nevin said. I knew immediately I was destined to do this. That is one of the most powerful quotes I've ever read. And so I want to kind of dive in. For those of you that don't know, Dan Nevins is not only all of those amazing things that we just totally talked about before, but he's also a double amputee combat veteran that's highly decorated. And he also is a survivor of TBI, which is also part of not so much disorder, but it can ultimately contribute to PTS and PTSD. It also can contribute to secondary stress disorder, which is a re-implementation of actions and events that have happened in the past. And these are experiences that Dan lives with every single day as a family father, entrepreneur, leader. And he is able to find balance and harmony through what he just spoke about. Dan, open up to us and talk to us about how you recognize this life-changing experience in that class and how that earth-shattering moment was the moment where you knew this was your time, that you had to do something to inspire others.
Well, I have to say, is I think one of the reasons that that experience was so profound is that I didn't want it. Sorry, there's a package at my door.
No worries. Ring.
Yeah, so as I was saying before UPS came, one of the reasons I think that moment was so profound is because I wasn't looking for it. I didn't even realize that I needed something or really anything. As far as I was concerned, everything was great. I was successful, well-adjusted. I was a great dad, all the things that really mattered. I was able to execute. But it wasn't until, and just to tell a little bit of the story leading up to that, it was, I just had my last surgery, number 36, on what was left in my right leg, and I couldn't wear my prosthetic, and oldest daughter had just turned 18 and she was just joined the army. And so she was out of the house. I was divorced. I shared a 3-year-old who's now 10 with my ex-wife. So I really couldn't even take care of her. I was hopping around on crutches and one prosthetic leg. You aren't really great at chasing a 3-year-old up and down steps. And then so in that whole process, I started to really feel the impact of the invisible wounds of war. And I couldn't sleep at night. You know, what I had learned through my experience, especially working with Wounded Warrior Project and being around thousands and thousands of warriors, people just like me, is that I learned really great ways to cope. And I coped so well that I never really suffered from PTSD. Matter of fact, I never had PTSD because it's a diagnosis that a doctor gives you. And I was the guy who was not seeing a doctor, especially a head doctor, a shrink, or whatever, you know, psychiatrist, psychologist, talk there. None of that stuff was relevant to me. And when I was having that surgery and then home alone and I couldn't talk, I led a team at Wounded Warrior Project at the time of like 100 people ultimately. And I couldn't talk to any one of them. And they were my family. They were my friends. They were all of my people. And I was just home alone. And then those invisible wounds started to creep up because everything I did to cope was physical. Ride a bike, climb a mountain, play golf, get into nature, hike, ride a horse. It was something. And they worked. But now here I was not able to do those coping skills and those tools. And I started to suffer really for the first time. And I couldn't sleep at night. When I did go to sleep, I'd wake up with nightmares, and then I'd take a handful of Benadryl and chase it down with a few gulps of whiskey and hoping I didn't wake up in the morning. And I wasn't suicidal, but I finally understood how the 22 veterans a day that take their own life happened. Like, it was the first time I got it. And then I actually, because I couldn't call my team, I called a friend who happened to be a yoga teacher. And she said, Dan, you need some yoga in your life. And I said, that's the dumbest freaking thing I've ever heard. I was so mad. Christina, you know, like I was so angry because I had just opened up my heart, like and talked about things that I haven't talked to anybody about for the first time in almost a decade. And she was like, you need some yoga. Exactly. You need some yoga in your life. I was like, I disown you and disavow you as a friend. And she got it though, because she said,
kind of like, your chakras are all your aura is so out of whack.
I'm grateful though, because she wasn't that version of a yoga teacher. Nothing bad or wrong about that version of a yoga teacher, but she met me where I was. And so she realized I was a no for yoga. So she's the one who suggested meditation. I said, I tried it and I sucked. And she said, you're probably not doing it right. She's the one who taught me about meditation is about being present. And then I finally got it, and then meditated a couple of times a day, and then things got a little better, not perfect. And then when I called her to say thank you, she said, now you owe me some yoga, and I couldn't get out of it. And then so you fast forward to the first class. It was the most painful, ridiculous experience of my life because I'm doing it with my prosthetics, and it's hot. It's unreasonably hot in there. I practiced Baptist yoga, so it was heated, and, it was hot, and I was like still sore on my leg because I just got my prosthetic back, and I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I ever did. And I committed to 3 private lessons, like, because I knew you couldn't do it all in one. But after the first one, I was done. I was like, I checked the box, I did the thing, and now I'm good. And then when she called to schedule the next lesson, just about when I was about to tell her exactly where to put that next lesson, I remembered that I committed to 3, and a commitment's a commitment. And then so I did it, and I went back. And it was still miserable. And then that's when in the middle of the class, I got so frustrated, I just threw my legs off. And poor Anna, when I asked her, I'm like, can I do this with my legs off? Her eyes were saying no. They were like, no. Like, I've never seen eyes bigger than that, because I'm sure she'd been teaching about a year. So I'm sure she was like, well, what am I going to tell him to do with his feet? You know, like.
Or not feet.
Yeah, right. Exactly. What am I going to do? Like, I'm sure she was totally apprehensive. But then what I did is, like, I just said, I'm in my head, I'm going to do Warrior One. And she had been saying these stupid things in class, like root down to rise up. And I'm like, if you say that one more time, swear to God, I don't even know what I'm going to do, but you're not going to like it. Right? Yeah. Well, me too now. Right? But I was like, I don't understand what you're talking about. And then, so in those moments, I took my legs off, and I'm sure she's behind me. She can't see my face. She's probably just assessing the situation. But I'm like, I'm going to do warrior one because I'm a warrior. And so that at least makes me feel better about myself in some way. Duh. And then, so when I did that, I committed. I mean, I committed to the pose because playing sports in my youth, I knew about visualization techniques and things like that. And so I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. What does she keep saying? Root down to rise up. Okay. What does it mean? Practical, real terms. So I just visualized roots growing out of what was left of my legs into the ground.
Wow, beautiful.
And then I was like, okay, rise up. You're in warrior one, you put your arms over your head. And when I did that, the earth sent this like extreme jolt of energy. I've never felt more alive in my life. I tell you, I went from feeling so small because on my knees, my 5'4" yoga teacher was towering over me. But in that moment, I felt 8 feet tall and invincible, more powerful than I ever felt in my life. And I didn't get it. And it was like, it was something, it woke me up. It was like the earth was saying, Dan, where have you been for the last 10 years? Just disconnected from the very thing that connects all of us, the planet. And then so I realized later that connection was missing everywhere in my life. And I just went to work putting it back in. Oh, and then, by the way, by my third lesson, I had signed up for teacher training.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. Wow, by the third one. Damn.
I was hesitant because I didn't want to be a yoga teacher. I was committed to not being a yoga teacher, but I wanted to learn more because whatever that was that I got, whatever that feeling was, I wanted more of that. Like chasing the dragon a little bit.
Gosh, yeah.
And though it's just opened up so much more for my whole life that I'm incredibly grateful that I swallowed my pride enough to give the practice a real shot.
That's huge. That's actually like a bad word, like what? Surrender.
Oh yeah.
Swallowing your pride. Like you were able in that moment to feel the essence of the authentic true source. Like you in that moment, I'm a Bhakti yoga teacher. So for me, everything is like woo-woo.
It's okay.
Everything's woo-woo. I'm that teacher. I'm that mystic mama, right?
See, I can talk to you now. You just weren't the right one then.
Yes. And it's interesting because I'm that woo-woo teacher and most of my students are veterans. And I think it's really cool because I'm not so woo-woo, but I'm woo-woo enough. I'm woo-woo enough to know that how you discovered source is like the Holy Spirit filling someone up, right?
Absolutely.
And how you feel the essence of God and that power that overtakes you in that moment. There is no such thing as I am on my knees smaller than this woman. No, the infinite source of being the tree that branches, not only roots, but branches and reaches more to divine. You're beginning to branch out to so much more. In that moment, you grew into this being of a light worker, whether you recognized it or not. You knew in that moment you were touched to be used as a vessel to now do what you do.
Absolutely. I didn't really recognize it at the time.
No, but now here you are, fast forward, and you're inspiring so many. In that moment, when you recognized that expansion in your life, how did that in that moment transform you when you left that class with your family, with the way that you looked at yourself again, how you regarded yourself, how your relationships were with the people around you? And how did that begin to transform into this passion of, okay, now I'm going to be a yoga teacher. Now I'm going to share my gift. Now I'm going to create a nonprofit. I'm going to, get involved with wounded warriors. I mean, I flip through Yoga Journal and see you, and I'm like, holy wow, look at this dude. Oh my gosh, look at those things. What are those things? They're the coolest things I've ever seen. Do they hop? What do they do? You know? And I'm like having all these conversations in my head about your legs. And then I'm in my, then I go and sign up for trauma yoga teacher training with Judy Weaver and Connected Warriors. And then you're on the cover of a book. And I'm like, that's him again. And then you taught my husband at the time how to do Shavasana and be okay with going to a yoga class and just laying down and being present. And if all you did was just be there, that was it. So begin that journey with us. Like, take us into your life, like into this transformation.
So right after that happened, well, so two things happened. By the next class, see, there was between the first class and that second class where I had that moment. Yeah. There was a lot of time because I didn't want to go back. Mm-hmm. Right. And that was just, but I knew I had to. And then I couldn't schedule the third one fast enough. And then I committed to teacher training probably maybe 3 days later, because I was like, oh, it's the leadership class. And by the way, my Baptiste level 1 teacher training, it's 100-hour training. It's 1 week. It's somewhere around the country. Mine was in Hawaii. Shame.
Awesome.
and I'll frame it this way. And I'll answer your question, I promise. But it was, so I've been through military leadership schools. So the primary leadership development course, the basic non-commissioned officers course, like all of these really great, highly acclaimed leadership schools in the military. And then also in the civilian world, I went to Columbia for executive education. I went to Dartmouth to Tuck Business School for executive education. I learned from all these great business and influential leaders in the world. And my level 1 yoga teacher training is by far, to a factor of 10, the most powerful leadership course I've ever taken. Because it wasn't about like a leadership philosophy. And yeah, there's a methodology to the practice, but it was like, who are you? Who am I as a leader? And I'd never really done that sort of inner work before, like taking things apart and dismantling my life. But it showed up right after that training. So I knew that I had a commitment to yoga teacher training. So I knew I had to like learn to practice. And like my third practice with people in it was at my first day of teacher training. 150 other yogis. And we practiced, not kidding. We practiced for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And I was like, what did I get myself into? Right. But everything in those moments. So I was literally in awe and in not necessarily disbelief, but more curious about what happened on my mat. Like, what was that? Was it just some adrenaline, or was it some norepinephrine or serotonin flooding my body? Like, what did it? But all I knew is it was the most amazing experience I've ever had, and I just wanted more of it. But then the more I sat with it, the more it just made me realize how disconnected I was from, I had friends, but I mean, no one got inside of the like sphere of maybe protection. Like, people put walls up, metaphorical walls. It was, no one got past my wall, but I was so approachable and kind of like happy-go-lucky. It didn't seem like there were walls there. But they were concrete, galvanized, rebar, reinforced, force field protected.
Like, this is the fortress.
Right.
Do not pass.
Nobody could really see them, but they were there. And then so I realized, I'm like, okay, so my divorce was all my wife's fault. And then I really started to look at, well, maybe it wasn't. Like where do I need to take ownership of where things didn't go my way in my life? And I really started to restore and invite real, genuine connection with all people. It was like some sort of switch went off, and I actually started letting people in. Because, okay, so I get hurt. Okay, so then I heal and I move on, right? So it's like I didn't have to protect anything anymore. And a lot of that had to do with like the whole not good enoughs and not, like, well, who's going to love a guy that doesn't have legs? And who's going to, right? How is that going to be attractive? And how am I going to compete? Because I still am a pretty competitive guy. So it's like, well, now I can't compete. So that's why I really latched on to Like when I played golf, like was a single digit handicap and I could beat people with legs, and that made me feel good, made me feel powerful, but in a ego way and not in a divine way, you know? And then so the more I started to see those things for what they were versus just how it made me feel in the moment. And I just went to work cleaning all those things up and restoring connection where it was lost or broken. And I get my ex-wife and I are like the very best friends and co-parents probably in the world. We should write a book on how to do that thing right. And it's the thing I least wanted to do has made the most profound impact in my life. And I think that's true for a lot of things.
Oh my gosh. Beautiful. Yes. You know, I love how you kind of just kind of wrapped it up in a nice little bow, you know, like he's like, here you go. Ding. So perfect. Yet I want to know, so that moment that was beginning to transform for you and gave you the power to take your power back and to be okay with being vulnerable and having these moments where you can tear up and not feel attached to this stoic male identity or role that we've been conditioned to see, conditioned to see that men should be or male identified should be in that space. And you were able to find a way to say, hey, you know what? It's okay to break down these patterns. It's okay for me to cry and to be in tune with these emotions because I am who I am right now with or without these spaces or these appendages. And I am a bigger part of myself. Can you explain those moments of how it's okay to like not feel like, no, you're not a bitch or a sissy. Yes, you can cry. Yes, you can open up, and it's okay to not eat meat and still be a yoga practitioner and not be judged by that. Like, can you talk about how like these, you know, like the man bun spandex idea, you know, like everyone's pretty, you know, everyone's beautiful. Like that guy, can we like get that guy out of there and see what, like, it's okay for all guys to be the guy.
Absolutely. And you hit it on the head. It's like, and I'll tell you, just be honest, that like playing, filling the role, like manliness, machismo, all those things. It's very real. It's still present. Like I will fight you with I will fist fight someone and I don't want to. I don't want to, but I will, and I'm pretty good at it. Right. So just right. Saying. And it's not, you know, and that's not ego. That's just like, it's reality. I was born, I'm a man, so I have a dominance of masculine energy. It's there. We all have masculine energy and we all have feminine energy, like the energy behind compassion. And it's sort of like allowing those things to come forward just as a choice. And then knowing it doesn't change who I am. It's just like I'm allowing space for that part of me that's very real to be shown. And then knowing deep down, like I know I'm a man, and there's nothing that's going to differentiate that or change that about my life. So if I allow feminine energy to show and come forward, then that's fine, because I know that I'm a man. And, you know, we're taught, I mean, as kids, and probably by well-meaning parents, to like, no, suck it up. You don't cry. You don't do this. You don't show emotion, because of maybe their fear that you might get picked on because the sissy kid got picked on at school. And there's nothing, if you want to talk about a sissy, if you want to talk about someone who's scared, I mean, that's what not showing, you know, different sides of yourself is. It's fear. Yeah. It's fear about being judged. It's fear about someone making some assumption about you that maybe you're homosexual, and then that you have that as that's bad or wrong, some twisted way based on how you grew up, which again, it's nobody's fault, but then how that manifests. And you have to wake up and say, well, who cares? Right? Like this is who I actually am completely. not just like this part of me that I'm supposed to show, because that gives a representation that I'm for sure a man. Because if I act manly, then for sure there's no question that I'm not. Mm-hmm. And the only person that really matters to is me. Mm-hmm. Right? And so I would rather people see who I actually am. Mm-hmm. It actually takes a lot less energy. It takes a lot less energy to just allow who you are moment to moment to be the person that's seen. Mm-hmm. Versus like throwing up, the whole conversation about masks, right? Like, oh, I wear this mask, my macho mask. And that takes energy and time. And then you have to be a different person for different groups of people.
Being the representative.
Yeah. Like you have to okay, who am I? Who do I have to be as a parent? Who do I have to be as a spouse? Who do I have to be as a boyfriend, girlfriend, superior, subordinate? No, this is it.
Like when we recognize that we are just soul self. We are just soul self. We occupy the vessel that we're in right now for this temporary time. And we identify with an energy that happens to be a little bit more manly or masculine versus feminine. Fun fact, we're all born with our mother's DNA. So we all are the divine feminine. And we just happen to have a little bit more of one than the other. And so that's why it makes us a man and a woman. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk to you about what are Dan's non-negotiables for his rituals and routines? What does he do to maintain his balance and harmony in the morning or at night? What is his mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual non-negotiables that Dan does religiously and does not deter from every day to maintain his homeostasis with himself and his family?
There's really, if I gave it some thought, there's probably more, but there's one non-negotiable. It's meditation every morning, period. Mm-hmm. No ifs, ands, or buts. If I wake up late for something, I'm going to be at least 5 minutes more late. Mm-hmm. So I have a commitment that I'm going to meditate at least 5 minutes every day. Mm-hmm. Everyone has time for 5 minutes. So I give myself permission to set aside. But now it's usually 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. And though life happens. Mm-hmm. And so I gave myself a break and said, okay, a minimum of 5. Mm-hmm. And the more I get committed to that practice, because it's been 7 years now almost of a daily meditation practice without fail, it's like I think of 5 minutes and I'm like, oh, that sucks. I need at least 20. I need right, a little bit more. Right, at least minimum, right? And then there's an optional meditation at bedtime. Mm-hmm. But then there's time to journal, time to write down. But that's not. I'd love to say that my gratitude journal that sits next to my bedside table is a daily, every night to do it. But really, it's there and it stays there for the moments that I don't feel so great, right? Mm-hmm. So I can redirect my energy onto the things that are going well in my life. And then so I can go to sleep with that energy and then wake up with it. But if my day goes well, I'm like, I'm already good. I'm going to watch something ridiculous on TV.
I love it. Right. So simple. Keep life simple. Simple little rules, Mm-hmm. Don't make it complicated. And I like that you say redirecting your energy, because that's very challenging for some to do. And how and can you also talk about TBI a little bit and how you work with that as a tool each and every day to empower what you do?
Well, this is the thing about TBI is you really don't recognize how it's showing up. Mm-hmm. Because it's your brain, it's your operating system, right? So what I realized, and I'll say this, is like with each passing day, the brain is just an amazing organ. It heals itself and finds new pathways, and it's able to make adjustments and accommodations for the things that lack. So I still have a hard time with names, even with mnemonics and things like that. I still struggle, but it gets better and better. And matter of fact, you have that moment where you're trying to remember something and then people want to give you the answer. I'm like, stop it. Mm-hmm. I need to get this. It's there. I know it's there. I just can't access it. And I start to realize when, like now with time, right? Time and it's practice too. I start to realize how these things show up. And does it affect my mood? Early on, yeah, if my mood was terrible, and was it the TBI or was it PTS or was it a combination of all of it? Probably. And then, so my TBI is mild to moderate. So it wasn't like nothing, and it wasn't severe, like it was definitely not severe, which is a whole nother story when we talk about brain injury. But I count myself as very lucky. And then I know that when something's not, I just know about how I feel, like how my body feels. Like if I'm irritated and agitated, instead of being irritated and agitated, and this is what this is the gift of meditation for anybody who's listening who doesn't meditate. It's like before anything else, like just do a meditation practice, however you need to do it. Because for me, the biggest benefit of a meditation practice that shows up in my life, especially with a brain injury, is I become more aware of the things that are happening versus letting life push me around and affect my mood. Is like if I'm agitated, I become aware that I'm agitated instead of just being agitated or angry. And then so I hit the pause button and I'm like, well, what can I do right now? Okay, breath work. I can do box breathing for, I don't know, for 10 breaths. And I can change something about the way I'm feeling by using the tools that I have. And then in like less than a minute, I'm no longer agitated. I feel great again. And so because of the meditation practice, it's really given me access to see how life can just push someone around. Right? Other people can influence the way my day goes. And that's just silly. You know, especially like it's an election year now and people are like, at each other and it's all crazy. And I catch myself going like, yeah, like don't. And then I'm like, all right, like one, I'm going to turn this off. It's not helping anything. And the only thing that matters about politics for me is, okay, like what do I want for my family and the country and the world? What do I want? What do I care most about? And then I'm going to vote that way. No matter which way it is, unpopular, popular or not.
You do what's best for you, right? It's the same thing with your yoga practice. And I want to kind of steer us in that direction with our yoga practice, because you are a voice and you have really embraced the Wounded Warriors Project. They have really helped you along this journey. And you have now not only been affiliated with them for so long and been in a phase, and then now you've grown kind of up through their little ranks now to become this big rank of a director of a new project. So can we talk about this Speak project?
Actually, so yeah, the Warrior Speak, it's called Warrior Speak, and it's a project inside of the Warrior Project. I actually started 10 years ago next month.
Oh my God.
Right. So, so it's been ongoing. It's like I don't work, I used to work for and inside of Wounded Warrior Project, and I left shortly after becoming a yoga teacher, it was literally my dream job. I was serving warriors, honoring and empowering warriors and their families every single day. I felt good when I went to work. I felt good when I left, even if it was like long, crazy hours.
As they can be.
And right, it can be. And I just, I was like, I could never leave that job. But when I did leave, it was so I could go do what I really, and it was because of yoga. It was because of that moment that I had. It's like I had this realization. It's like, how can I be most effective with what I have to share with people? And that is telling stories and teaching yoga. So if I'm able to make a living by telling stories and teaching yoga, and then still getting to stay involved with Wounded Warrior Project and do things pro bono for them, and then I'm like, well, that's the real win, and that's what I've been able to create. So I share stories like as a keynote speaker somewhere, like on a big platform stage. I've done
all over the place,
all over the world.
Nevins.com.
Europe, US, overseas. I got to go downrange. The DoD hired me to go downrange and tell stories in the combat zone and teach yoga. I mean, like talk about a dream.
Wow.
And do all those things and have more time with my family, more time with my girls. I was able to keep my income the same and do all, and like not have to suffer like a cost of living adjustment, which is a lot of fear around that too. But I just trusted in, well, this is what I feel like I'm being guided. I feel like called, like I'm answering a demand that's coming from somewhere much higher.
Oh yeah.
And the funny thing is too, is, I mean, I'm a yogi. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience.
Yes,
And
brother.
it's true.
Yes.
And there's this temptation to go deep and walk a really lonely path in that, a journey to like enlightenment. Like there's this sort of it's there as sort of like a pull, but a bigger pull than that is, no, like that's not actually why I'm here. Like I'm here to be the warrior with no legs who suffered in this way, to be maybe a catalyst for people who are like, oh, that's not for me. No, so I shoot guns and I eat meat and I blow things up and I eat low vibration foods and I keep it, keep it real. Like I keep it real. So I have this sort of like dual life. It's like one part of me like really seeks to go higher. And then it's sort of like some of the feedback I get from that connection is like, nah, dog, stay in the trenches.
He said, no, dog.
No, dog.
No, dog.
Your work is here, right? And the only way to be relevant, really, I mean, it's true. And I think we talked about this, chatted back and forth. Like, the only way for me to be really relevant and authentic in the community that I actually want to be connected to is to still be in that community.
Yep.
To still tell wildly inappropriate jokes in the right company. To still be that.
To be you.
Tap into that sort of ego toxicity thing, but now understand it is what it is, and then not be connected and attached to it and live my life from it. But to be able to go there without any judgment about people who live there, and then be able to introduce them to something and then step out of the way. Right.
You're planting a seed. Planting a seed. You know, you could still be yourself and connect and resonate with those around you just as who you are. And that's the beauty about your practice and what you're sharing. It's just, you know, that moment that happened back then on the mat that first time was like the seed that was planted. Little did you know that seed happened to be this giant tree that was planted in you, and it's like propelled into the global perspective. And taking that even further, you come into this space with the Warrior Speak project, kind of now we guided into, and I saw that you have a foundation known as the Yoda Foundation, and also the Warrior Spirit Retreat. Can you talk about those two?
Yeah, absolutely. So really the Yoda Foundation, and so my for-profit business is called Yoda LLC. And for those of you who don't know, for you yogis, like I got really confused. So I tell stories. I'm sorry, but I'm going to keep it short. So
I'm okay with it. This is
all right. So got it. So
talk as long as you want.
Warrior 1, Warrior 2, Warrior 3 is Virabhadra, right? Virabhadrasana, right? So I'm like, okay, so Virabhadra, take out the asana, right? So Virabhadra must mean warrior. It doesn't, by the way. Virabhadra is the name of a warrior. And Shiva snatched his dreadlock to go avenge the death of Sati, his wife, and the whole Dakshin.
Yes.
Warrior 1 is coming up through, and he smashed it to the ground. The incarnate of Virabhadra came, this protector, this person who did not take a vow of ahimsa to not harm people, and so avenged Sati's death by cutting her dad's head off, replacing it with a goat. So that's the Warrior 1. Warrior 2 pointing the sword. Warrior 3 chopping his head off. Real gentle, peaceful yoga talk, right? Well, as the story goes.
Yes.
As
Yogis
the story
have to read the Bhagavad Gita
right.
and the Ramayana. You'll be just very surprised.
Right. And so the Sanskrit word for warrior is Yoda. Yodha. And then that's actually how the little green guy in Star Wars got his name.
Get out of my head. I was just about to say something.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, because George Lucas was like, hey, we have this character who walks and talks like a monk, like a yogic monk, and is a fierce warrior. And then so they use Sanskrit for warrior to get his name.
I love that fun fact, Dan.
You're welcome.
Oh my God, I'm so going to quote you on it. I love it.
Yes. And so the Warrior Spirit Retreat is a retreat that I was called to start. What's a nonprofit I was called to start to lead retreats that are yoga, mindfulness, and meditation retreats for warriors. And I've done a couple family members too, but I mean, the focus is really the warrior. And I connect, if I offered a yoga, mindfulness, and meditation retreat to all my warrior buddies out there, 0 people would come, right? Okay, I don't want to say 0, a very few people would come. So I looked at what was my yoga before I found the practice. So I looked to my coping skills: golf, horsemanship, nature. So it's very much a golf and horsemanship and nature retreat that we happen to practice yoga twice a day and meditate and, learn about the Bhakti methodology. And as well as we practice yoga nidra, help people restore some sleep and wake up their bodies. Yeah. It's funny, if you look at this generation of warrior, the post 9/11 generation of warrior, because I feel like 78% is the right number. So I'm going to go with it, but you can check this stuff, on the internet. But 78% of the whole, this based on the Wounded Warrior Project annual survey, which is the most comprehensive data set on this group of generation of veterans that exists, by the way. 78% are either morbidly obese, or overweight. And the number 2 issue is low sleep, lack of sleep and low sleep quality. It's like even a higher percent, but then it's just, not as severe. And then so if I can help tackle those 2 big things, like help people get better sleep and start moving their body and kind of understand how to nourish their body in a better way. And then, by the way, wake them up to something hopefully higher than themselves inside of the practice of meditation and yoga asana. And it's just what I'm supposed to do.
Yes.
And I'm so bummed too, because we were doing our first international retreat. We were going to Peru. Oh
my gosh. I was going to Peru in April. And yep. And then we pushed it to October.
We were scheduled to go in May. Everything was set. Everything was coordinated. And then pandemic. So.
Yeah. I love Peru.
I feel, same. So when I went to South America, I went to the Amazon, Peru, and I felt so like that's where I'm supposed to be. Like this is my land. Like I'm from, and I was so sure about it. I went and did the DNA test, I think it was the 23andMe that I did. Wow. And I was like, I know it's going to come up. I got some Peruvian in here, and that's what's calling me. Nope, I'm the whitest white dude it's ever been. I'm like French.
And I was about to say, hablas español porque yo creo que tú hablas español. I was like, I think you speak Spanish. You might be speaking Spanish.
I can speak a little bit of Spanish. Seguro fondo da pasillo a salir allá al edificio que está a mano izquierda. Cuando llegue, por favor, póngase la línea que está afuera.
Wow, que se parece casi como es italiano, algo así. Qué bonito. Very nice.
It sounds Italian?
It sounded very Italian. It's beautiful.
Like Castellano, like
yes,
Argentina.
Super. Yep. Absolutely.
So, but yeah, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, I have none. French, English, German, Irish.
All the things. All the things, but Peruvian.
No Peruvian.
But it's in your heart. Pachamama, you are all things. You are all things. Pachamama is always with you. Always. Mm-hmm. Dan, tell me, where would you like to see the world of yoga and wellness and healing arts, really? Because we have so many explorations of healing arts, maybe for the yogi that maybe is not considered the physical yogi that does the yoga practice asana, but maybe their yoga is music or it's art or it's creative writing or it's a different expression, cooking. So let's offer, where would you like to see the world of healing arts go for the male identified and male communities?
I'd like to see it go everywhere. And this is what I mean. It's like whatever it takes to invite someone who doesn't fit the bill, right? And it doesn't have to be male identified or men. It just, whoever isn't in your community, then you need to invite them in. Just an invitation. And I'm not saying scholarship them or give them special access, just invite them. And then, because that's what works, actually. When you're like giving someone which is why I butt up against and sort of turn a blind eye to a lot of the veteran yoga teacher trainings out there, like trauma informed sort of. And I'm not against trauma informed yoga practices. It's just that we don't need them, actually, in the case of, like, for say veterans. We need them for people who are in the state of acute trauma, i.e. it's fresh and they can't just kind of be out. Maybe they're behind a locked door, or it's some sort of acute situation where it's like, okay, but we need to do something. Yes, by all means, take a trauma-informed approach. But if someone walks into a yoga studio, you treat them the way you treat every other person, and don't you dare treat them differently. Because the people in your class who are there also probably have more severe trauma than the veteran who just walked in, and you just don't know it. And they're finding healing and comfort and solace and growth and development on their mat all by themselves.
Without
and the
you treating them
same
differently.
applies. So, like, yeah, if you're going to be in an acute situation, take the training, do it that way. But don't you dare, like, mess with the thing that works. And whether that's yoga asana, whether it's a meditation class, whether it's mindful cooking, or whatever it is, just be an invitation for people who aren't there already.
Yes.
And that's all people, not just the leader, not just the person who started, this is my class and this is my platform. All of the people that are there who are getting something out of it, because it's missing. And I haven't met a single human being yet that got involved in some sort of healing arts practice who regretted it. It's just they thought it wasn't for them. And so they put it on the shelf as like, well, that's for those people, not for me. And then the more we can sort of build those bridges, and that there's no more those people, it's just all of us. And then that's where I say it should go everywhere. It's like, just invite until you're blue in the face, but don't sell them either. Don't be like, well, you should really do it because, I heard that you have stress. And no, you just invite them because you want them to be there.
Yes.
Period.
Done and done.
Done and done.
Done and done. Dan, tell us where we can find you and connect with you and learn all of the wonderful offerings that you have, your teacher trainings, inspirational speaks, all the things.
Thank you. I'm right here.
I know. You're right here. You're right here with me. It's all good.
So dannevins.com is probably the kind of the best stop. And you feel free to sign up for my newsletter because I don't send any. It's like I should. There's all these things I should do that are in development.
Sign up for it, but you won't hear from him.
I should talk to all my people, right? And I don't, and I should. And then Instagram, Facebook at Dan Nevins. Dan Nevins or at Dan Nevins is sort of like the best way. Website, not number one, especially if you want me to come do something, teach a class, speak at your event or whatever. And I'm so grateful that I've even been able to stay busy speaking, because speaking, by the way, I mean, I love yoga and it does pay, but what pays the bills is speaking. And then so I've been very fortunate to stay busy enough virtually. So that's always a huge plus.
Absolutely.
So yeah, they can find me on my website. They can find me right here on your podcast presentation here.
Yes. All of you can absolutely find Dan. I'm going to have all of his information and all of the links. So all you have to do is just click, and there he is, just like he's right here. So all you have to do is click on those links and you will go directly to his site. You will go to his Instagram. You will go to all the things that he has, because I will find them. And I will find them, like that movie. I'll find you. So I will find them and you will all get them. They will be, this recording will be also on our newsletter for our members to also share this with your communities. It's a very important message to get out to the world. And this is why we're doing what we're doing, especially for this month of yoga and suicide prevention and awareness and inviting your friends to yoga. It's really important. So thank you so much, Dan. I love you so much, brother. This is such an honor and a pleasure.
I love you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Closing too. I just got to say this, invite a veteran to yoga because you just might save their life.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Thank you, Dan. I love you, baby. Thank you so much.
Love you. Ciao.
Bye.